This is a question from Andrew, who asks, what would happen if the Earth and all terrestrial objects suddenly stopped spinning, but the atmosphere retained its velocity? Well, first, nearly everyone would die. Then things would get interesting. At the equator, the Earth's surface is moving at about 480 meters per second, a little over 1,000 miles per hour, relative to its axis. If the Earth stops and the air doesn't, the air there will suddenly be moving over the surface at 480 meters per second. For reference, supersonic speed is 346 meters per second. The wind would be highest at the equator, but everyone and everything living between 43 degrees north and 43 degrees south, which includes about 85% of the world's population, would also experience sudden supersonic winds. The high winds would only last for a few minutes near the surface, before friction with the ground slowed them down. However, those few minutes would be long enough to reduce virtually all human structures to ruins. Even structures strong enough to survive the winds themselves would be in trouble. As comedian Ron White said about hurricanes, it's not that the wind is blowing, it's what the wind is blowing. Say you're in a massive bunker made out of some material which can withstand 1,000-mile-per-hour winds. That's good, and you'd be fine. Unfortunately, you probably have neighbors. And if the neighbor upwind of you has a less well-anchored bunker, your bunker will have to withstand a supersonic impact by their bunker. My home in Boston is far enough north to be just barely outside the supersonic wind zone. But the winds there would still be twice as strong as those in the most powerful real-world tornadoes. Buildings would still be smashed flat, torn from their foundations, and sent tumbling across the landscape. Winds would be lower near the poles, but no human cities are far enough from the equator to escape devastation. The highest latitude city on the planet is on the island of Svalbard in Norway, and even it would experience winds equal to those in the planet's current strongest tropical. Even so, the human race wouldn't go extinct. True, very few people above the surface would survive. The flying debris would pulverize almost everything. However, a lot of people below the surface of the ground would survive the initial event just fine. There would be other lucky survivors, like the scientists and staff at the Amundsen Scott Research Station at the South Pole. The surface of the Earth at the South Pole isn't moving relative to the Earth's axis because it's on the axis. People there would simply lose contact with the outside world. They'd probably be confused, until someone noticed that the sun had stopped moving across the sky. Then they'd be really confused. Back at the equator, things would get really weird. Wind sweeping over the oceans would have been churning up and atomizing the surface layer of the water. For a while, the ocean would cease to have a surface at all. It would be impossible to tell where the spray ended and the sea began. As the energy of the blasting wind began to dissipate, it would mostly go into heat, a lot of heat. But oceans are cold. Below the thin surface layer, there are fairly uniform